I've had a lot of offers to do private auditions and things that made absolutely no sense, just common sense. Don't go into a hotel room alone. Don't, if someone answers the door in a bathrobe, leave. There's these things that are common sense, but I know Hollywood is very seductive and people want to be famous, and sometimes you think you're going to be safe and with an adult in the room, or, I don't know where this security comes from, but somehow I dodged it all. Backgammon, which led into a back massage, which led into my first heterosexual experience. He was 25 years old.
Upstairs and in a VIP area, Pamela Anderson is on something.
Okay.
And the dude that she was with, Shackelford or somebody like that, was next to her, and he was in his bag too.
Okay.
All of a sudden, they start kissing. And I'm like standing there looking down at everybody downstairs, and then I look over and see that, and I look to my right, and Fred Durst is looking at it too. I'm like, it's like a movie right here. He's like, I know.
Use the word, I felt embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so many women out there now feeling that way about their own or something that happened to them, embarrassed. To them, what would you say?
Well, we naturally blame ourselves. I didn't tell my mother for a long time, and even when I told her, she went, "Oh, well, that's in the past."
Pam's ex, Tommy Lee.
They patched it up.
I don't. It's between them.
The incident went down in March at the Motley Crue rockers' Los Angeles area home and led to a criminal investigation.
And as is always the case in situations like this, when a celebrity is involved, people can be downright mean and nasty. You'd be shocked at the length fans will go, no matter the evidence, to the contrary, to defend celebrities.
Concluded that as you said, you have a hard time trusting humans. Can you tell me why?
I some things happened to me when I was a child. I felt like I needed to talk about that in my speech when I started my foundation because...
Pamela Anderson is finally speaking out about a night at one of Diddy's parties that she says nearly cost her life. And the story is chilling. She's been a Hollywood icon since the 80s and 90s, a time when outrageous things happened behind closed doors and there was no social media to expose them. So when Pamela, who's seen it all, says that a Diddy party left her terrified and fearing for her life, you know she witnessed something truly disturbing. Sources reveal it wasn't just the freak-offs that horrified Pamela. Allegedly, she saw dark and unsettling rituals at the party and nearly became a victim herself. She has proof to back it up, too. But did Diddy actually try to put Pamela in danger at one of these notorious freak-offs? Let's dig into it.
Decided it would be funny to gang 6 of his friends. Needless to say, I had a hard time trusting humans and I just wanted off this earth. My parents tried to keep me safe, but to me the world was not a safe place. But you somehow think that you were to blame. But I learned to never put myself in those situations again. And when I came to Hollywood, of course, I've had a lot of offers to do private auditions and things that made absolutely no sense, just common sense.
And I feel like people are becoming desensitized, and there's the multiple visual images that get weirder and stranger, and it's a big concern.
They have to make you dirty. Like, you cannot be in Hollywood, become famous if they don't have some kind of dirt on you. And you go on those parties, and that's where usually you have to do something dirty, and it could be the party of overeating stuff.
I had some people close to me that were going through similar things, and I was trying to weigh out, should I really just bring this up, because I think it could help a lot of women, and I think I'm in a position where I can help people. So I just thought, I'm just going to start my foundation being raw, honest. This is what's happened, and I'm okay.
But it was actually also,
Reports claim that Diddy orchestrated these freak-off events with force, threats, and coercion, pushing victims to participate in extreme performances with male workers that he transported across state lines. He reportedly organized and controlled these gatherings, referring to them as freak-offs, and recorded many of them. These events sometimes spanned several days, involving multiple participants, and included various narcotics.
Time involved multiple commercial sectors and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent. and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal so that they would participate in the freak-offs.
Recently, Diddy's troubles have snowballed, and it doesn't look like they'll ease up anytime soon. He's facing some of the worst allegations in Hollywood history, and jail time seems possible. And on top of that, civil lawsuits are piling up, each one more severe than the last. With so many lawsuits, Diddy might need loans just to cover all of his settlements.
In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims.
Now, they say they found those recordings of the freak-offs during the raids on his homes in Miami and here in LA.
Which opens up a whole Pandora's box of who...
As the allegations against Diddy grow, some insiders are revealing what it's really like at these freak-off parties, where many of the alleged crimes happened. The latest to speak up is Pamela Anderson, who reportedly witnessed some of these shocking events firsthand. For years, she felt too afraid to come forward due to Diddy's powerful connections. But now, with the spotlight on him, she's not holding back.
Of course, I've had a lot of offers to do private auditions and things that made absolutely no sense, just common sense. Don't go into a hotel room alone. Don't...
Before we get into her claims about Diddy, it's worth noting that Pamela Anderson isn't some random internet personality seeking attention. At 57, she's lived through experiences most people can't imagine. So when she calls something creepy, people tend to believe her. Pamela grew up in Ladysmith, British Columbia with her mother Carol and father Barry Anderson, in a home marked by a toxic marriage and physical altercations, often putting Pamela in the middle of their conflicts.
I grew up in a very, home, and there were in my household, and I think it's just my model of a relationship. And when I got into any kind of relationships, it just seems to, you recreate the pattern, even though you say you're never ever going to do that, you're never going to have the same relationship. My poor mom she's still with my father. My father is a great grandfather. He's a wonderful grandfather, but he's a terrible husband. And and my mom still suffers because it's verbal abuse, used to be physical abuse, and
Pamela's childhood was marked by some deeply painful experiences. She shared how, between the ages of 6 and 10, a female babysitter took advantage of her. At the time, she didn't fully understand what was happening, but growing up in such an environment set a difficult path for her. Later in life, she found herself in relationships with men who treated her poorly. It began when she visited a friend's boyfriend's house and ended up being essayed by the boyfriend's older brother, a man in his 20s. This left her with deep emotional scars and trust issues. When she started dating, things didn't improve. Many of her boyfriends were harsh. They would physically hurt her, essay her, and speak to her in cruel, demeaning ways. In one incident, a boyfriend became so aggressive during an argument in his car that he pushed her out of the moving vehicle. Another boyfriend and his friends forced themselves on her in the back seat of his car. These experiences took a heavy toll on her.
I did not have an easy childhood. Despite loving parents, I was from age 6 to 10 by my female babysitter. I went to a boyfriend's house, and while she was busy, the boyfriend's older brother decided he would teach me backgammon, which led into a back massage, which led into my first heterosexual experience. He was 25 years old, and I was 12. My first boyfriend in grade 9 decided it would be funny to gang rape 6 of his friends. Needless to say, I had a hard time trusting humans, and I just wanted off this earth. My parents tried to keep me safe, but to me, the world was not a safe place. My dad, an alcoholic. My mom worked 2 jobs waitressing. My mom was always crying. Dad didn't always come home, leaving us in tremendous pain and worry. I couldn't bear to give her any more disruptive information, so I couldn't break her heart any more than it was breaking. I kept these events to myself. Sometimes when you smile, it's not because you're happy, it's because you're strong.
When Pamela was eventually discovered by Playboy and brought to Los Angeles to launch her modeling career, she saw it as a chance for a fresh start, a way to reclaim herself. But Hollywood had its own dark side. As a beautiful blonde woman in the late 80s, she quickly caught the attention of powerful men in the industry. Her big break came when she was featured on the cover of Playboy's October 1989 issue, making her an overnight sensation. Soon, Pamela began receiving invites to parties at the Playboy Mansion, where, according to her, all sorts of wild and sometimes questionable things happened. At first, she was hesitant to attend these gatherings, wanting to avoid being drawn into that world.
Someone's number 1 girl, and I just naively said, well, there must be number 2 then, so I'm not interested. Or just money, homes, roles in movies, and I just didn't want to do it that way. I had no desire, and I'm a romantic, and
When the pressure finally got to her, Pamela gave in and began attending industry parties. Her modeling career quickly took off after that, and soon she landed her iconic role as C.J. Parker on Baywatch, staying on the show for 5 seasons from 1992 to 1997. She picked up other roles in movies and plays and landed several modeling gigs. But even with all her success, Pamela faced a tough challenge. Most people saw her as just an objective symbol, or a bimbo, not a serious actress. She became the subject of envy among women and objectification among men.
Hard for you to be a serious messenger. Do people diminish you because you've owned your sexuality and sensuality in that way?
well, I think it's gotten me in the door a lot. And I think there's been more good than bad, but obviously there's, downsides to it as well. But I kind of like not having much to live up to, because then I can surprise people. I form a full sentence. I'm a genius. It's amazing. So, and I've kind of used it to my advantage. And, we use all we are, and I love feeling and being a woman. You're able to be a good mother. It doesn't mean you're a bad mother if you're covered in glitter and just got back from Vegas, a Vegas show. It's all part of us.
One of the hardest moments in her career came in 1995 when a private tape from her honeymoon with ex-husband Tommy Lee was leaked online. Insiders say the tape was stolen by a former employee who tried to blackmail them. When Pamela and Tommy refused, the employee sold it to a media company that posted it on the internet. Although they initially sued, they eventually dropped the case, fearing the legal stress would harm Pamela's pregnancy. Afterward, the media company continued to profit from the tape, attracting even more viewers. At the time, internet access was limited, so this leak was a huge deal. It even drove people to the internet just to watch. This was one of the first celebrity tapes to go public, and the buzz around it was massive.
Embarrassed. To them, what would you say?
Well, we naturally blame ourselves. I didn't tell my mother for a long time, and even when I told her...
Fan of your Tommy Lee tape.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
No.
It's fantastic.
Stop.
Did you make a mint off of that?
I made not $1.
I thought you guys made a deal.
Property. No, we made a deal to stop the shenanigans and stop all the... I was 7 months pregnant with Dylan, and I was...
For Pamela, things only got worse. Just a few years after the first tape leak, she faced another scandal in 1998 when a second adult tape, this time with musician Bret Michaels, surfaced. Despite efforts from Bret's lawyers to block the release, Penthouse magazine managed to share a shorter version online that same year. This took a toll on Pamela's public image, as many people continued to objectify her and reduce her to these leaked moments.
Thinking it was affecting the pregnancy, the stress, and I said, I'm not going to court anymore, I'm not being deposed anymore by weird lawyer men. I don't want to talk about my anymore, or public sex, anything. Yeah. So, it was stolen property. We never, either of us made anything from it, and it was stolen, and, Bob Guccione tried to offer us millions of dollars. We said no, and it was already out at that time, damage was done, so we just said, no way, we're not.
Adding to her frustration, Hulu released a miniseries in 2022 called Pam and Tommy, focused on the scandal. Pamela later shared that Hulu never asked her for permission to create the series. In an interview, she expressed her anger, criticizing the platform for making money off her painful experiences.
First heard about the Pam and Tommy TV series. I think everyone just protected me from it. I wouldn't get involved. And that's, I don't know. I just think it was interesting to hear about it. Didn't make me happy. No. But just salt on the wound. Not necessary. Anyway, it happened. I've never seen the series, and I've never seen too much of it, but it just looked like another Halloween costume to me. Everyone dresses up, like there was a lot of Halloween costumes over the last decade, so. I'm on my own little crazy little journey. I don't have a lot of influences, I guess. I think that's why I try and really think about what are the things that I love.
Some sources suggest that the leaks and scandals surrounding Pamela weren't just random incidents. Instead, they were part of a series of humiliation rituals intended to break her spirit and push her towards dark paths in Hollywood. Allegedly, powerful figures pressured her to participate in certain disturbing rituals, and there were even threats to harm her if she refused. This may have influenced Pamela's decision to step back and return to her hometown of Ladysmith for a while to escape the spotlight. Even with everything she's been through, Pamela considers herself fortunate to have escaped. Many other talented and beautiful women in Hollywood have faced similar or even worse ordeals, and not all of them make it out. Whitney Houston, for instance, remains an example. Though it's been over a decade since her demise, rumors persist that her passing was suspicious, with some even suggesting that her label boss, Clive Davis, was involved. Whitney, a once-in-a-generation talent, struggled under the weight of fame and success, eventually turning to substances and alcohol to cope, which affected her ability to keep up with the demands of her music career. In her final years, Whitney was working hard to turn her life around. She was getting clean and aiming to revive her music career. On the day she passed away, she was set to perform at Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party. But here's the strange part. After Whitney was found in her hotel room at the Beverly Hilton, Clive Davis reportedly didn't seem shaken and went ahead with the party. When questioned later, he claimed he believed it's what Whitney would have wanted.
Magnificent evening. Did you give a thought to canceling?
Never.
You never thought?
Never.
Did you ever think?
The family did not want me to give a thought.
Didn't?
No.
According to her close friend Shaka Khan, Whitney would never have wanted her friends and colleagues partying and drinking just floors below where her body was found.
Well, I think going to go to the Clive Davis party.
Yes.
It was a surreal event where Whitney's body was still in the hotel, and there was this sort of party where apparently half the room were in tears, the other half were kind of partying. What did you feel about that?
I thought that was complete insanity. And knowing Whitney, I don't believe that she would have said, the show must go on. She was the kind of woman that would say, stop everything. I'm not going to be there. You know, I don't know what could motivate a person to have a party in a building where the person whose life he had influenced so enormously and whose life had been affected by hers. They were like, I don't understand how.
What's even more unsettling about Whitney's passing is how she reportedly seemed in her last days, disheveled and a bit on edge, almost as if she sensed something was wrong. Insiders say she even interrupted an interview with Brandy and Clive Davis to hand Brandy a note in secret. No one knows exactly what was in that note, but rumors suggest Whitney might have been trying to warn Brandy not only about Clive, but the darker side of the industry. Some believe Whitney was silenced because she wanted to reveal the disturbing things that Clive Davis and his protege, Diddy, allegedly did at their infamous freak-off parties.
A lot of people are curious about the status of P. Diddy.
Status of what?
P. Diddy. Diddy.
The status of puppy.
What do you make of that situation? No comment from Clive Davis.
As for Diddy, the buzz is that celebrities who once attended his parties, like Pamela Anderson, might be called to testify before a grand jury if this case goes to trial. With things heating up, many wonder if Pamela will stay involved or decide to step back after everything she's already endured. Meanwhile, major new allegations against Sean Diddy Combs are surfacing. Several victims have come forward, claiming they were minors at the time of their alleged essay, the youngest being only 9 years old.
There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. And I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on. They know who they are.
Diddy could be facing a life sentence in prison, according to recent reports. His infamous freak-offs didn't just involve adults. Shockingly, minors were also a part of these events. Now, these individuals, who were children at the time, are stepping forward to demand accountability from the former music mogul. The youngest victim was only 9 years old, and the federal investigation is uncovering even more disturbing details. They've gathered over 3,000 testimonies from victims painting a horrifying picture. Thanks to these accounts, federal authorities have also identified other celebrities who may have been involved. They are determined to hold everyone accountable for supporting or enabling Diddy's actions. Just what evidence has been found, and who are these other celebrities involved? Here's what we know. One of Hollywood's darkest secrets, Diddy's exploitation of minors, has finally come to light. During a press conference on October 1st, attorney Tony Busby, alongside co-counsel Andrew Van Arsdale, made shocking allegations against Diddy. Busby's firm has filed numerous civil lawsuits against him, with accusations including mistreatment, fraud, battery, and incidents involving minors. The details are chilling. Busby revealed that his firm has received calls from 3,285 people, all claiming trauma related to Diddy. They've already verified the accounts of 120 victims, 60 men and 60 women, and the numbers expect to rise. Although there were rumors that Diddy targeted black individuals specifically, the reports indicate that his actions affected people across various communities. About 62% of the plaintiffs are African American, 30% are white, and the rest are Hispanic or Asian. These individuals come from over 25 states, with many located in California, New York, Georgia, and Florida. According to Busby, these disturbing incidents stretched across more than 30 years, from 1991 to 2024. However, what has everyone sick to their stomachs is this: 25 of these victims were minors at the time of the incidents. The events are said to have taken place at various gatherings, including freak-off parties, New Year's celebrations, album release events, white parties, auditions, and even something called puppy parties.
Another week and another handful of civil suits filed against P. Diddy. This time with perhaps the most shocking allegation we've heard so far, that Diddy apparently assaulted a 13-year-old girl after the VMAs. Her lawsuit says Diddy came at her with a crazed look in his eyes before alongside an unnamed celebrity. But that's not the only new civil suit Diddy's facing. There are 4 others with equally as disturbing allegations, and we're breaking.
In one report, a 9-year-old child invited to an audition with Diddy was allegedly asked to perform favors for him. Afterward, Diddy reportedly encouraged others in the room to do the same, offering the young victim a record deal as a reward.
We talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred. It's shocking. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors.
Another child was allegedly told to return without their parents, with Diddy promising to make them a star. Alone with Diddy, the child was reportedly forced to engage in inappropriate acts. One victim, who was only 15 at the time, recalls being flown to New York City for a party. Upon arrival, they were allegedly given drinks spiked with illegal substances, leaving them defenseless and at the mercy of Diddy and others.
An individual 15 years old at the time, flown to New York City to attend a party, was and then taken into a private room, allegedly in the presence of Mr. Combs, where this female individual, minor, was raped, and then other individuals took turns raping her.
In another case, a victim was picked up from the airport by Diddy's entourage in a black SUV and offered a drink that caused them to black out. They woke up the next morning with physical pain and missing clothing, which told them all they needed to know.
Another individual, 26 at the time of the occurrence, was picked up allegedly by Mr. Combs and several other people in a black SUV from the airport, was given one drink in the SUV, and then literally woke up the next day not knowing what had happened, but with pain and damage to both her vagina and her anus.
A male victim shared that he had to leave the industry due to what Diddy allegedly did to him. Busby and his law firm plan to pursue all of these cases. Some of these victims sought medical help and reported their experiences to authorities. Hospitals found unfamiliar chemicals in their systems, including a horse tranquilizer, raising further questions about the nature of these incidents.
And were found in their system, weird that you probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is called xylazine or trank, which, based on our research, is known as a horse tranquilizer.
What's even more shocking is that the number of victims may keep growing. News reports say that within just 24 hours after Busby's press conference, more than 12,000 calls came in on the hotline set up for victims. With so many cases to go through, Busby's firm is working around the clock with over 100 people answering calls to make sure every story is heard. Busby shared with Urban Hollywood that their team's huge task is now to go through each call, sorting out who the victims and witnesses are, and gathering evidence to support the cases. To help confirm these stories, he has even brought in a former detective from the Major Offenders Unit of the Houston Police Department.
We're being stringent because, as I said, these are not easy cases. They're very tough. The process is hard, and in some cases, the process is very lengthy. These cases are hard to prove. Many times it's the victim's word against the alleged perpetrator. Each of these victims will no doubt be publicly attacked by the alleged perpetrators, and in some cases, the general public. The feckless and cowardly keyboard warriors love to attack. We know what we're up against. We did not enter this fray blindly. I wish it was my last such fray. I wish this type of behavior wasn't so pervasive.
Experts think that Diddy's indictment could be why so many victims are speaking out now. With Diddy behind bars, these individuals may finally feel safe enough to tell their stories and work towards justice for themselves and others.
First, I want to talk about the timing of this. Comes out after the indictment, after the arrest. What do you make of the timing?
I think the timing is about perfect. So a lot of people don't come forward right away because for a number of reasons. And when you do this in this manner after the publicity that the indictment and the arrest have received, a lot of these survivors, this is really kind of top of mind for them right now. And so having this happen right now, it's kind of allowing them that safety, really, and having people that have kind of tried to push this away to think about maybe I should help others. And so I think that's really kind of, some of the more significant parts of why you do this now.
Another reason more victims may be speaking out now is that authorities are finally taking their stories seriously, something that wasn't happening years ago when these incidents originally occurred. Attorney Tony Busby shared that most of these victims faced cold responses when they initially reported their experiences to police or hospital staff. Back then, Diddy had connections everywhere and could easily smooth over or shut down any investigation. In some cases, he allegedly even threatened victims to keep them quiet. Busby explained that many victims who had no power or influence felt trapped when going up against someone as powerful as Diddy. Now, however, the tide seems to be turning. According to Busby, about 55% of these victims had filed reports, and these reports are now being used as evidence. The biggest question remains, if Diddy allegedly harmed minors, why weren't those charges included in his recent indictment? Were the authorities unaware, or did they simply lack the evidence to proceed? Legal experts say it's a developing case. The public doesn't have the full story yet, and it's possible that federal investigators are quietly building a separate case that could lead to further charges once they have enough solid evidence.
So that evidence still might be being collected. There could be that grand jury could still be sitting and collecting evidence and investigating this right now. There could be superseding indictments that come about. I think that we can't really make any assumptions based upon the indictment that we currently have. I think that, the credibility of those claims, a criminal case and a civil case, as you know, are very different in terms of burden of proof. In a criminal case, you have the higher standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. On the other hand, on the civil case, you have just preponderance of the evidence, which is, just more likely true than not true. If you believe one side a little bit more than the other, then that side wins. So I think that there's also that. And with minor claims, they're particularly tricky because minors' memories are not as good. And when you're talking about adding, being potentially to the mix, that could even make it more complicated in terms of proving these minors' claims. And, something that I encounter frequently in my practice is that, sometimes minors will just say, I don't know, if they just don't want to talk about something. They have very distinct ways of protecting themselves. So it's a lot more difficult to work with minors, and it takes a little bit longer to build those cases. So I wouldn't say we're going to rule that out. there might not be charges with minors, but right now, that's just.
Here's where it gets even more unsettling. A man who was only 6 years old back in 1991 is now speaking up about his experiences. Justin Lovsky, who is now 30, attended a Diddy-hosted party in the Hamptons on July 3rd of that year. His father, David Allen, a photographer, had taken him along to the barbecue. Though Justin wasn't directly affected, he remembers witnessing some odd things. At first, he was excited to see so many famous faces and even got a picture with Diddy. But soon, he realized there were no other kids around, and that made him feel uneasy. He remembers seeing a lot of naked people and chaos around the pool. He had wanted to jump in, as he did whenever there was a pool around, but wasn't sure if what he was seeing was good or bad. He later noted that he didn't have a normal smile in the picture he took at the party. Justin's mother, Maya Lovsky, also shared her perspective. She recalled seeing bottles everywhere and naked women at the event, leaving her uncertain if this was appropriate or typical. She wondered how kids were even allowed at the party in the first place. People are naturally wondering why Justin didn't see any of the so-called freak-offs. The reason, it seems, is that Diddy kept those events hidden. He would host these tame parties for public appearances, but the real action, the backroom parties where the alleged mistreatment happened, was only for his inner circle. So who really knows what was going on behind those closed doors?
Diddy party, and then a after dark Diddy party, and then a after dark Diddy party freak off.
Yeah.
Because I've said it, I've been to a Diddy party, like, you know.
I can't wait to see the videos.
No,
can't
listen,
wait.
in Miami, like there's Star Island, there's Hibiscus Island, there's Palm Island. You get invited to these things, these parties. Dude, 300 people are in line to try to get into these parties. But there's a big difference between getting into the island, getting into the house, and then going upstairs to the freak off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay outside.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going on?
And so
Diddy has a lot to answer for, and he's not alone. Reports suggest other celebrities were also involved. At the press conference, Busby revealed that Diddy isn't the only person facing these lawsuits. There are others who didn't just stand by. They allegedly enjoyed taking part in these acts. That's why Busby is determined not to let any of them walk away unscathed.
The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, are names that will shock you. These are individual cases.
Fans are inclined to believe Busby, especially since Diddy's circle over the years has included high-profile names like Aretha Franklin, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton, Sarah Jessica Parker, Leonardo DiCaprio, Ashton Kutcher, and others. Since these accusations surfaced, many of these celebrities have remained silent. Busby isn't filing a class action, which means each of the 120 victims will have their own case. This approach lets him expose the individuals involved one by one, giving the public a clearer picture of who was present and what they allegedly did. Over the next 30 days, Busby plans to file various lawsuits across multiple states. He also mentioned that many incidents took place in well-known venues and even in the homes of other celebrities. His plan is to pursue both individuals and corporations that allegedly allowed this behavior to take place under their roofs, benefiting from it.
These defendants will not only include individuals, but would also include corporate entities who ultimately profited off of this culture and behavior. I'm looking at banks, pharmaceutical companies, hotels. We know that many of these individuals were paid cash. We know that many of these individuals involved, whether they were the ones being assaulted and abused or they're witnessing other people being assaulted and abused and then paid and threatened and told to leave. Typically paid 10 grand in cash and told to leave. And then threatened as they were leaving. So in addition to Sean Combs, you should know the defendants in these cases we're going to file will include anyone, of course, who engaged in the assault or exploitation, anyone who participated in such in any way, anyone who encouraged or facilitated this conduct, anyone who was in the room and watched it happen but made no effort to stop it, any venue or venue owner who was aware of what was going on but failed to stop it, any individual or entity who knew about the conduct and benefited from it but did nothing to report it or stop it, and any individual or entity who covered it up or helped cover it up. These people who know who they are should just come forward now.
Diddy's attorney, Erica Wolf, has brushed off the allegations as a money grab. She stated that Diddy can't address every baseless accusation in what she calls a reckless media circus. Wolf asserted that Diddy denies any mistreatment, including towards minors, and that he looks forward to clearing his name if these claims ever reach court, where evidence, not rumors, will prevail. But Diddy's legal team may need to rethink their stance. Busby appeared prepared at the press conference, stating that his firm has real evidence to support these allegations, including videos, photos, text messages, police records, and hospital reports. Diddy's team might find themselves on shaky ground once Busby begins filing. So far, Diddy's defense has been that his freak-offs were consensual. But if Busby can prove that minors were involved, Diddy's argument won't hold up. Diddy's legal team should also consider Busby's experience. He recently handled a high-profile case against NFL player Deshaun Watson over similar accusations. At this point, Diddy's situation is looking grim. But what are your thoughts on this mess? Do you think there's truth to the stories being shared? And how do you think this will affect Diddy's ongoing criminal case? Let us know in the comments. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos like this.